In a galaxy where gods walk in armor and the stars are soaked in blood, there is one question even the most battle-hardened Astartes dare not ask aloud. What happened to the Second and 11th Legions? We know the names of 18 Primarchs, warrior kings forged by the Emperor himself. We know their triumphs and tragedies, their loyalty and their betrayal. But 2 of their brothers are missing, scrubbed from the records, their symbols shattered, their worlds forgotten. This isn't just a clerical error. This is a deliberate act of silence, a black hole in Imperial history, carved with intent. Were these legions destroyed, betrayed, or did they uncover something so terrible that even the master of mankind himself could not allow them to exist? You know the galaxy is cruel, but sometimes what's erased is worse than what's remembered. Before we continue with the video and my further explanation about the lore Warhammer 40K Legions, I want to ask for your help. I'm trying to reach 5,000 subs before the grim darkness future starts. So I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and help me out, and let's win this battle together. Okay, let's continue. Two, the origins of the Lost Legions. At the dawn of the Great Crusade, the Emperor created 20 legions of genetically enhanced super soldiers, his Angels of Death. Each legion was a reflection of his genetic mastery, and each was destined to be led by one of the 20 Primarchs. But even in those early days, something went wrong. The 20 Primarchs were scattered across the galaxy by the ruinous powers before they could be raised under the Emperor's eye. Each legion, fatherless but loyal, fought in the crusade under temporary command until their Primarchs were rediscovered. And one by one, those lost sons were found. Lemon Russ of Fenris, Sanguinius of Baal, and even the ill-fated Horus of Thonia. But not all were reclaimed. The Second and 11th Legions were active. They fought, bled, and even conquered worlds during the early crusade. Records suggest they were involved in major operations before they simply vanished from Imperial history. Their banners were struck, their data cores erased, and the memories of their warriors reduced to whispered warnings. This wasn't an accident. This was a purge, not just from records, but from memory. Statues removed, names unspoken, even their homeworlds gone. Some say even their legionaries were absorbed into others or destroyed outright. But why? Why would the Emperor destroy 2 of his perfect creations? And what could they have done that was worse than the betrayal of Horus himself? 3. Hints and implications in official lore. If you dig through the layers of Warhammer 40K lore, you'll find the Lost Legions hiding in the shadows, not mentioned directly, but not entirely forgotten either. The most cryptic clues come from the Horus Heresy novels. In the first Heretic, Lorgar, Primarch of the Wordbearers, reflects on the fate of the 2 lost brothers with unease. He calls them forgotten and purged, and it's clear, their fate was not unknown to the other Primarchs. They were aware, and they were warned. Even Horus, the War Master, avoids speaking their names. That silence speaks louder than any record. Robert Guilliman once hints at the idea that the legions were erased for good reason, but never says why. Even the most loyal sons of the Emperor, Sanguinius, Dorn, Russ, refuse to speak of their fallen brothers, not out of grief, but out of obedience. That's the chilling part. It wasn't the warp that swallowed them. It was the Emperor himself. In 1,000 Suns, Magnus the Red reflects that the remaining Primarchs were explicitly warned not to pursue the truth. The Emperor gave no explanation, only an unspoken decree: do not ask, do not search, do not speak. And so the Imperium obeyed. What we're left with are scattered implications, dust in the corners of grand tomes, statues missing from the Hall of Heroes on Terra, mysterious designations like Tu and Tektuin carefully avoided in archival data, and conversations that trail into silence whenever the topic arises. 4. Theories and speculations. Where official records end, the theories begin, and Warhammer fans have no shortage of them. Some are grounded in logic, others in madness, but all of them wrestle with one central question: What crime is so great that the Emperor would erase his own sons from existence? Theory 1. Genetic mutation and instability. Some believe the Lost Legions were flawed from the start. Unlike the obvious mutations of the Space Wolves or the Blood Angels' Red Thirst, these flaws may have made the 2 and Kess legions uncontrollable or unstable. Perhaps their gene seed bred madness, or worse, psychic corruption. But here's the problem. The Emperor tolerated mutation in other legions. Why not these? What if it wasn't just mutation but evolution? An abomination beyond control? Theory 2. Early Heresy. Others whisper of rebellion, that the Lost Primarchs turned against the Emperor long before Horus ever looked toward chaos. Maybe their fall was swift, so sudden that it shocked the Emperor into secrecy. The Horus Heresy was a galaxy-wide betrayal. But what if the real first heresy was committed by the Second and 11th? And the Emperor, he didn't forgive. This theory is terrifying, not because of what the legions did, but because it means Horus wasn't the first failure. Theory 3. Absorbed into other legions. A quieter theory suggests the warriors of the purged legions didn't all die. Instead, they were quietly folded into other forces, most often into the Ultramarines, known for their massive numbers. It's a theory Robout Guilliman has never confirmed, but he's never denied it either. Could it be that their legacy lives on, disguised behind other heraldry? Theory 4. Warp catastrophe. This one's darker. Some say the Lost Legions vanished because of a warp-based event, something so catastrophic, so reality-breaking, that it couldn't be allowed to stand. Maybe they discovered something. Maybe they became something, and the Emperor had no choice but to unmake them, not for betrayal, but for the survival of reality itself. What all these theories share is fear. The fear that the Emperor, this supposedly perfect being, made mistakes. And when those mistakes became threats, he didn't forgive, he erased. And the Imperium learned one lesson. Some truths are more dangerous than lies. 5. The Emperor's Edict of Obliteration. In the Imperium, death is not the worst punishment. Oblivion is. What happened to the Lost Legions wasn't just destruction, it was erasure. And that's where the Edict of Obliteration comes in. The term isn't mentioned outright in most Imperial texts, but its effects are unmistakable. Statues removed, names chiseled out, data redacted. This wasn't the work of time. It was a deliberate, surgical purge of history. The Emperor didn't just destroy the legions. He commanded that they be forgotten. Why? Some say it was to protect morale. After all, how can you build a galactic empire when your own sons rebel, before the galaxy even knows their names? If the truth of the Second and Twistwing legions ever reached Terra's masses, faith in the Emperor might falter, and in the Imperium, faith is everything. Others believe it was punishment, not just for the Lost Legions, but for the remaining ones. A warning, a quiet message to the other Primarchs. Stray, and you won't just fall, you'll vanish. Even Malkador the Sigillite, the Emperor's most trusted ally, never speaks of the Lost Legions. And the other Primarchs he is, they obey the silence, not because they fear it, but because they understand it. The Edict of Obliteration is the Emperor's scalpel, not to kill, but to unmake. And whatever those 2 legions did, it convinced the master of mankind that even memory was too generous a fate. 6. Purpose of the mystery. Let's step back for a moment, not into the lore, but behind it. Because the greatest truth about the Lost Legions might not be in the pages of codices or Black Library novels, but in their absence. This mystery wasn't just born from the narrative. It was designed. Rick Priestley, one of the original creators of Warhammer 40K, has hinted that the Second and Eleventh Legions were left deliberately blank. Not because the writers had a secret plan, but because they wanted a gap, an open wound in the lore. Why? Because Warhammer 40K isn't just a story, it's a universe. One where hobbyists and storytellers build their own empires, their own chapters, their own tragic heroes. The Lost Legions offer a blank slate, a space where players can insert their own myths, rivalries, or forgotten histories. They are mystery incarnate. And beyond gameplay, they serve a thematic purpose. In a galaxy obsessed with control and knowledge, the idea that even the Emperor has secrets, buried truths he dares not speak, adds weight to the narrative. It reminds us that in 40K, nothing is safe, not even history. Their silence echoes louder than any battle cry, because in the grim darkness of the far future, it's not just what we know that defines us. It's what we're forbidden to remember. 7. Conclusion. So, what really happened to the 2 lost legions? The honest answer? We may never know. That's not a flaw in the lore. That is the lore. The Second and 11th Legions remain the Imperium's most forbidden mystery, a scar that no one will touch, not even the godlike figures of the 41st millennium. The silence around them is deeper than death. It is intentional, and that makes it more terrifying than any chaos god or Xenos threat. Because in Warhammer 40K, the unknown isn't just dangerous, it's sacred. Maybe the Emperor erased them because they rebelled. Maybe he saw something in their future that had to be stopped before it could unfold. Maybe they were too pure or too monstrous or not of this galaxy at all. Or maybe they became something else entirely. What we do know is this: the Lost Legions shaped the galaxy not through presence, but absence. They remind us that even in a world of absolute control and brutal clarity, some shadows can't be lit. And maybe that's the point. In a universe where entire worlds burn in seconds, where brother turns on brother, and where gods whisper in the warp, the greatest weapon might not be a bolter or a chainsword. It might be a secret, 2 legions, 2 erased histories, and a single unspoken truth. If the Emperor could erase them, what else could he hide?